Hello, Inkscape for Glowforge users. Today we're actually going to veer off and do something a little bit different than Inkscape because some people have been asking about photo editing. I know that this is a really challenging task for some people. And it was very challenging for me at first as well. I had so many failed attempts of photos. I thought it would just be easy to kind of plug and chug. And some of them are, but a lot of them, especially of people, are not quite that easy. But with a few simple edits, I found that it's a lot easier to kind of work with. And so I wanted to go through what I would use today. So I don't have Photoshop. I don't have anything that you really have to pay for, honestly. So I try to find a bunch of free resources. This one that I use is called PixLRX. And so I have a shortcut right here, but this is the website, pixlr.com/x. And what we are going to do is these are all the different photos. I've gotten permission from a friend to use her wedding photo for advertising purposes. And so I edit a lot of my photos in this particular software, and it does a lot, but we'll show how to edit basic photos first. So let's just click on our photo here. Now, this is a wedding photo. I love professional photos. You can do other photos as well, but professional photos are by far the best in my opinion. So the amazing thing about this software is it can do a lot of the basic things. So you can flip it, you can resize it, you can change the background. Haven't really messed with this as much lately, but yeah, just kind of changing the background there. You can layer it if you want to. I've done that before when it comes to like coloring book pages, which we'll go over in a different software, is how to basically create your own coloring book page. You can change the height, you can do the cutout, you can do all of these different types of things. But the thing that I really use for pictures is this little sun key. Now, the big thing I always do first is change it to black and white. Because you're going to be engraving on wood, you want to change it to black and white so that way it has a better image and you better know what it's going to look like. So here's our black and white, which I think looks pretty good to start. However, I'm not really that thrilled with the details on her dress. I feel like I can't see them well enough. Now, typically, this photo is a little bit different. I've messed with it a little bit. Typically, the first thing that I would do is increase the brightness and increase the contrast. You see on this photo, that does not work because then she kind of disappears. So I will actually go back to normal, and these different controls really allow you to mess with different things differently. On this photo only, what I've done for this one is I've actually decreased the exposure here. And so that way you can see the details on her dress. That way you can see a little bit more of them. They're more in focus. And then you can mess with all of these other types of features if you want to. So if you want to add a little bit more of a black or a little bit more of the white or decrease it or different things like that, you can mess with those. One of the other things I do sometimes is I sometimes hit the sharpen. And you can kind of see in some ways it makes it a little bit more grainy, but in other ways it kind of sharpens some of those details that you'll see a little bit more so on your wood engraving. So I'm going to sharpen it a little bit here. And then I'll leave a few other things. We'll do another photo too, and I'll show you guys what both of those look like at the end after the wood engraving. So I'm pretty happy with this. I feel like their images are pretty clear. I actually might go back and decrease the exposure just a little bit more for them. Just a little bit, just because I want to try to see some of the details of her dress just a little bit more and have them in focus a little bit more. Okay. Now, this might not look quite as good on picture as some of the other ones, but again, we want to make sure that it looks good on wood. So after a little while, you'll get better at this. You'll kind of be able to eyeball it. The first few of my photos that I actually kind of edited were okay, and I've gotten better at them as I've gone along. So I'm going to hit save. Now, the amazing thing about this one is it allows you to kind of say how high a quality you want. I always put quality to 100%. Unless you can't for whatever reason, I would always do that. And then I download it. And then from that download, I would go to Glowforge. So after you have your photo, you can go into Glowforge software. I will hit upload, and then I'll click on my photo, and then I will hit open here. It'll upload, and then I actually just have it cut out by using some of the Glowforge software. And the other thing that's really cool in here is you can also engrave a message really easily in the Glowforge software as well. So it'll take a little bit of time to upload, and then it'll show up somewhat like this, okay? So you can move it around, you can resize it. I always like to resize it in here, so I told her that I would make this an 8 by 10. So I'm going to actually change this to an 8, and then I'll just kind of let that do whatever. So it's pretty much an 8 by 10. Now this looks kind of weird, but that's okay. Then pick whatever medium you put. I always put medium draft board, and the thing I always use is medium Baltic birch. So that's what I use, medium by meaning like 1/8 of an inch Baltic birch. And then what I do is I click this, and it actually goes to draft photo. See, I was like, sure, I'll just do HD photo. I'll do 3D engraved photo. I'll do all these different settings. Honestly, once you edit some, draft photo worked perfectly for me. So I'm actually going to stick with draft photo because I really like the way that works for me. And what I will now do is to make sure that this actually gets cut out the way that I want to, is I'll hit the square. And then you can also, if you hit this button, it will change your aspect ratio. You can adjust this however you want to. So I like for it to be just a little bit within the picture, just so, make sure I don't cut out anything, but just so the picture goes from edge to edge. And then I'll drag that down. There we go, and I'm pretty happy with that. And then I would just make sure that that's on cut, which it is. And then the photo is good to go. So let me show you one other photo that we are going to attempt to edit, and then I will show you what that ends up looking like. Okay, so I'll go back here to my home. The amazing thing about this is it actually saves a lot of your photos. So this is one that I actually recently updated as well. And so this is the way that it looked. And so the way that I did that is I actually, and I'll see if I can go back and do this again, but this is what the photo looked like in the end with all of the different editing. But let's upload that version again. So that's me and my husband. So if we can find this was the original photo. So let me move that over. So if we upload the original photo, cool. Again, you have all the different settings that you can work with, but the main one you will want is adjust. First thing that I will do is I will go to black and white. Doesn't look too bad, but I usually try to increase the brightness a little bit here. And again, just kind of mess around with the settings a little bit. Increase the contrast. I don't want it to be super high contrast because I want them to be able to see the difference between his pants and the rest of his suit. But increasing the contrast is usually really helpful with that. So I'm going to say that that's somewhat where I want it to be. I might sharpen it a little bit, etc. So let me go back to the original photo and what I ended up editing, and then I'll show you guys at the end what I ended up cutting. So I'm okay with that. That looks pretty good. Now this is the one that I ended up doing. Again, pretty similar to what I just showed you. So let me get this going, and then I will show you both photos at the end and how they look. So I wanted to show you how the photos turned out. So this is the photo that I showed you before that I edited a little bit earlier. For this one, I also decided to add a little bit of text at the bottom. Now you will see this kind of has a burning effect. You may want that effect. If you don't, what I would recommend is you cover the area that will be engraved with tape. However, what I would not recommend is covering the photo with tape. I engrave on just plain wood. So if you're using proof grade materials, I don't like having the masking on them. I like taking that off and just engraving on the actual wood. I've had most luck, like I said, with Baltic birch. I tried finished walnut plywood, did not work very well. The faces kind of came off. I've tried draft board and that works okay, but I really, really like the 1/8 Baltic birch the best. And I was pretty happy with the way that this photo turned out. So I have it kind of zoomed in a little bit so you guys can see the details, but this photo I was super happy with. So this photo turned out well. Now you will see that is almost like a crack and something here. There are irregularities in the wood. That's just going to happen. But overall, I was really happy with how this turned out. I love how you can see the wood grain. Some of your customers may not like that, but that's one of the things that I actually really, really like, and some of the different details that I wanted to show you guys from different angles. And again, this is all just engraved on wood. Now, if you look very, very closely, you can see kind of like dots. So that's basically how it creates the full complete image. But overall, I was really happy with the way that this one turned out. Again, just completely engraved on a piece of wood. This one was an 8 by 10 approximately, and it took a little under an hour. This one was closer to more of a 5 by 7, and it took about 35 minutes, and I have the basic. So if you have anything or want to get anything that's a lot quicker, I know the Pro, I think, does 3 times engraving, and the Plus is 2 times engraving. So you can get these done a lot quicker. But for my purposes, this is great. So I was really, really happy with how this turned out. Like I said, I would not use any kind of masking on the pictures. They don't then turn out quite the way that I want to. And this lighting isn't amazing. This is lighting that's just kind of in the hallway in my house. So these pictures actually do look better in person, but I don't have a lighting box or anything yet. So I plan to get one of those next. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to leave it in the comments. I also have the Facebook group, if you're watching this on YouTube, that you can join. It's Inkscape for Glowforge users. And then if you have not gotten a Glowforge yet, but you want to buy one, if you would love to use my code, I would love for you to use it. It'll save you $100 to $500. And that is also listed in the comments. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a great evening. And I hope some of these tricks helped you.